Long before pastel mailboxes and matching rooflines crept across the valley, my land was already there. Rolling grass, barbed wire fencing, stock ponds dug by my grandfather, and a herd of cattle that paid the taxes and then some. The deed went back nearly a century, passed down through wills and handwritten notes that smelled like dust and leather. When the developer first approached me 15 years ago, he wore a shiny watch and a fake smile. He talked about community integration and shared green spaces. I told him politely that my land wasn't for sale and that my cows didn't care for sidewalks. He laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. The development still went up, of course, right next to my pasture. 200 identical homes sprouted up behind decorative stone walls. The developer named it Willow Crest Estates, as if that made it belong there. At first, things were peaceful. My fence line held. My cattle grazed. The residents waved awkwardly when they realized the scenic open space next door included a 1,000-pound steer staring back at them. Then the HOA board changed. That's when the bike path appeared. I found out about it the same way I found out about most HOA nonsense, by a laminated notice zip-tied to my fence. Notice of Community Improvement Project. According to the flyer, Willow Crest Estates had approved a multi-use pedestrian and cycling trail designed to connect residents with nature. The map on the paper showed a thin green line cutting diagonally across my pasture, crossing 2 grazing sections and skirting the stock pond. My pasture, not their buffer zone, not easement land, my deeded, fenced, working cattle land. I drove straight to the HOA office. The woman at the front desk smiled like she'd practiced it in a mirror. "Oh yes," she said brightly. "The Greenway Initiative. Everyone's very excited." "Everyone doesn't own cows," I replied. She blinked. "Sir, I asked to speak to the HOA president." That's how I met Brenda Collins. Brenda was the kind of person who wore yoga pants to board meetings and spoke in bullet points. She greeted me with a tight smile and a folder already open on the table, like she'd prepared for this conversation. "We're within our rights," she said before I'd even sat down. "No, you're not," I said calmly. "You're planning construction on private agricultural land." She slid a photocopy toward me. "There's an implied easement." "There is not." "Well," she said, tapping the paper, "our legal committee believes." "I don't care what your legal committee believes. I care what my deed says." Brenda leaned back. "This community values walkability. My cattle value fences." She smiled again. "We'll make sure there are signs." That was the moment I realized she didn't understand the problem. Or worse, she didn't care. Construction started 2 weeks later. No permits posted. No survey stakes on my side of the fence. Just a crew of contractors cutting wire and rolling gravel straight into my south pasture. I called the sheriff. He came out, scratched his head, and said, "Looks like a civil matter." I called my lawyer. He said, "Let them finish." I didn't like that answer, but I trusted him. By the time the path was completed, it was a smooth ribbon of asphalt winding right through the middle of my grazing rotation. They'd installed cute little benches and trash cans. There were even painted bike symbols on the ground. The HOA sent out a newsletter announcing the Willow Crest Nature Loop was officially open. The very first Saturday, the cyclists came. Families, joggers, couples with matching helmets. They rolled right past my cattle as if the cows were part of the attraction. At first, the herd just stared. Cows are curious, not stupid. They gathered near the fence, snorted, flicked tails. A few calves got spooked by the clicking gears and darted away. By noon, one of the cyclists had tried to pet a bull. That didn't end well. The bull didn't charge, but he did swing his head and snort hard enough to send the man stumbling backward into the gravel. Within an hour, I had 3 angry residents at my gate. "This is dangerous," one woman shouted. "There should be barriers." "There were barriers," I replied. "You removed them." Another man pointed at my cattle. "You can't have livestock next to a public trail." "This isn't a public trail," I said. "It's trespassing." They told me they'd call the HOA. I told them to call an ambulance if they kept wandering into a working pasture. Monday morning, I received a certified letter. Notice of violation. According to the HOA, my cattle were creating an unsafe environment, and I was ordered to relocate or restrain livestock within 14 days. They fined me $500 per day until compliance. I laughed so hard I scared the dog. That afternoon, my lawyer filed an injunction. Then we waited. The next weekend, the path was busier than ever. Someone had posted photos online calling it a hidden gem. Kids ran ahead of parents. Dogs lunged at calves. One woman tried to have a picnic near the stock pond. That's when the cows decided they'd had enough. Cattle move as a group. When one spooks, others follow. A sudden drone from someone's action camera buzzed low, and the herd shifted, slowly at first, then with purpose. They didn't charge. They occupied. The bike path disappeared under a wall of beef. Cyclists froze. Parents screamed. Dogs barked. My cows stood there chewing, unimpressed. No one was hurt, but no one passed through either. The HOA president arrived within minutes. Brenda stood at the fence, red-faced. You need to move them. They're grazing, I said. On my land. This is harassment. This is agriculture. She threatened to call animal control. I invited her to try. The hearing happened 3 days later. The HOA's attorney argued that the land functioned as a de facto green space, and that residents had developed a reasonable expectation of access. My lawyer didn't even stand up at first. He let them talk. Then he placed 3 documents on the table. My deed, the original development plat, and a county zoning map labeling my land active agricultural, no public access. The judge adjusted his glasses. Brenda stopped smiling. Then my lawyer played a video. It showed HOA contractors cutting my fence. Unauthorized entry, property damage, livestock endangerment. The judge asked one question. Did the HOA obtain written permission from the landowner? The answer was no. The ruling was swift. Immediate removal of the bike path. Full restoration of fencing. Compensation for lost grazing time. And, my favorite part, liability transfer. If the HOA failed to remove the path within 30 days, any injuries occurring on it would be their sole responsibility. They had 2 weeks. The path came out fast. Benches vanished. Asphalt jackhammered. Trash cans hauled away. Residents watched from behind their decorative stone walls as my fence was rebuilt, stronger than before. I added new signs too. Active cattle land. No trespassing. Livestock may kick, charge, or ignore you completely. The HOA newsletter never mentioned the bike path again. But the fines stopped. The complaints stopped. And the cows went back to grazing like nothing had happened. A month later, Brenda resigned. The new HOA board sent me a letter, an apology, and a request to coordinate future boundary communications. I framed it. Sometimes I sit on my porch at sunset, watching the herd move across the grass. Beyond the fence, Willowcrest Estates glows with porch lights and quiet streets. They wanted nature. They got it.